Hello everyone, welcome to the AdCup Show. So why hasn't President Donald Trump released the Jeffrey Epstein's files as promised? His base is furious, conspiracy theories are swirling, and even some of his closest allies are breaking ranks. They are giving wide range of excuses, but people are not ready to close this case. Everyone wants these files to be released, but the big question is why both Democrats and Republicans are trying to suppress this case. We'll try to understand this because it's not just about politics, but about the US as a country and the status it holds globally. So during his 2024 campaign, Trump repeatedly vowed to declassify the Epstein files, documents tied to Jeffrey Epstein, the disgraced financier and a convicted sex offender who died in 2019. These files, which include court records, flight logs, and FBI investigations, were supposed to expose Epstein's network of powerful associates. Trump's supporters, especially the MAGA base, saw this as a chance to uncover a deep state cover-up. But fast to July 2025, and Trump's administration has backtracked hard. Trump is literally calling Epstein files as boring.
I don't understand why the Jeffrey Epstein case would be of interest to anybody. It's pretty boring stuff. It's sordid, but it's boring. And I don't understand why it keeps going.
On July 7th, the Department of Justice and FBI dropped a bombshell memo. It said there is no client list of Epstein associates, no evidence of blackmail, and Epstein's death was definitely a suicide. Now, this directly contradicts years of hype from Trump's team, including Attorney General Pam Bondi, FBI Director Kash Patel, and Deputy Director Dan Bongino, all who teased major revelations. The memo also said no more files would be released, calling further disclosures inappropriate. However, due to too much of public pressure, Trump has decided to public all the so-called pertinent grand jury testimony, which is subject to court approval, but it's all just a virtue signaling, only to divert people's mind and put brake on their demands. Epstein files include all sorts of materials like images and videos. Trump administration doesn't want to release it, but here's the catch. Nobody is asking for releasing those images and videos. In fact, people are not even interested in knowing the names of victims who were minor girls. What people are asking to release is the list of all the clients who took this nasty service from Jeffrey Epstein. And according to Elon Musk, Trump's name is in the list, and that's the reason why these files are not being released. However, he later deleted his post and apologized for it. Trump and Epstein were buddies in 90s and early 2000s. Flight logs show Trump took at least 7 trips on Epstein's private plane between 1993 and 1997, sometimes even with his family. Epstein's contact book had multiple entries of Trump, including Mar-a-Lago address, the residence of Trump. In 2002, Trump called Epstein a terrific guy who liked younger women. Interesting. Trump, in response, called all this as a Democratic hoax cooked up by Obama, Hillary Clinton, and others to smear him. He doubled down, telling supporters to move on and calling critics weaklings. Some speculate that the files might name allies like business tycoons, donors, or even GOP figures, if not Trump himself. And Trump is trying to save them because if exposed, they would turn against him. What to note in this is that Democrats are totally silent, as if they are indirectly telling not to make these files public. Epstein files should be something on which Democrats should have doubled down, but that's not what is happening. I wonder why. 69% of Americans in Reuters poll think Epstein file details are being hidden. The blame game is on, and MAGA cult is now falling apart. They are even burning their MAGA caps and quitting the cult of MAGA.
I'm not gonna play with these anymore. MAGA hats are off. America First hats are on. Burn, baby, burn. And this is a great representation of what's left of MAGA.
Now, this proves one thing, and that is when Trump goes out of power, he'll take all the political infrastructure with him, which he created and built over a decade. So there is no MAGA after Trump's departure, and it looks like destroying MAGA is now in Trump's interest because everything is black and white for them. Trump is trying hard to divert people's mind, but nothing is working. In fact, his ratings are on free fall now. Many are calling him a weak president. Now, this is internal turmoil which is going on, but in reality, it's not just an internal issue. These kinds of cases have potential to destroy the global standing of any country. I mean, when you open the social media, you will find Americans lecturing countries like India about hygiene and how bad the country is. That in their own country, their politicians, businessmen, and celebrities are raping kids. It doesn't work that way. The potential release of the Jeffrey Epstein files, documents which are related to his criminal activities, alleged associates, and investigations surrounding his sex trafficking network will have profound implications for America's global image, and that's why America is scared to release them. So basically, Trump not releasing Epstein file is actually an act of being pro-America. But he can't say all this to his citizens. I mean, imagine Trump saying, hey, we are not going to release those files because that will hurt America's global standing. That will automatically mean that American elites are rapists and pedophiles. You see, Epstein file is like a Pandora's box. I say this because there is a high chance that there are several more Jeffrey Epsteins in America and also in Europe. They would all be connected with each other. So if Epstein files are released, then people mentioned in that list might make everything public. It's like a global sex racket kind of thing which goes beyond borders. Moreover, if the files reveal significant involvement of complicity of prominent American political figures and businessmen, then the global perception of the US as a beacon of democratic governance and rule of law could be severely undermined. It's already getting undermined though. America is self-claimed guardian of this world. They are very good in finding mistakes in other countries and societies. So if the file implicate high-profile politicians, judges, or corporate leaders as being speculated, then it could confirm long-standing suspicions of systematic corruption, and this could weaken America's ability to critique the other nations' governance. The US Department of Justice, DOJ, and FBI have already faced criticism for their handling of the Epstein's case, particularly after a July 2025 memo which concluded that there was no client list and reaffirmed Epstein's death as a suicide. If released files contradict these findings or reveal withheld information, it could damage the credibility of these institutions globally. Allies might question the reliability of the US law enforcement in international cooperation, while adversaries could exploit the narrative of a cover-up to undermine US authority in global forums like the UN. The political fallout as seen in the MAGA's movement's backlash against Trump administration's handling of the files could highlight America's deep political division. Globally, this might portray the US as a politically unstable nation, unable to unify on issues of justice and transparency. However, the US is no longer united. Citizens are divided on every issue. America's global image is often shaped by its cultural exports and the behavior of its elites. The Epstein case, with its ties to wealth, power, and celebrity culture, could amplify negative stereotypes about Americans' decadence and moral decay. Epstein's connection to celebrities and influential figures, example, mentions of Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, and others in the court document, could fuel perceptions that American elite culture is morally bankrupt. If the files reveal salacious details about prominent figures, global media might sensationalize the story, reinforcing stereotypes of the US as a hedonistic society where wealth and fame shield criminal behavior. The Epstein case involves horrific allegations of sexual abuse and trafficking of underage girls. If the file exposed a broader network of complicity, it could undermine America's global advocacy for women's rights and protection against human trafficking. Countries critical to U.S. foreign policy might argue that America failed to address such issues domestically, weakening its moral authority to lead initiatives like the UN's effort against human trafficking. Epstein's network reportedly included international figures such as Britain's Prince Andrew. Well, Britain has a lot of shady things, but Anyways, if the file names other foreign leaders or elites, it could strain diplomatic ties with allies. For example, revelations about European or Middle Eastern figures could lead to public backlash in those countries, complicating US alliances. If the US is seen as protecting foreign elites by withholding information, it could damage relations with those nations demanding transparency. The release of the Jeffrey Epstein's files could significantly impact America's global image, with effects ranging from eroded trust in institutions to strained diplomatic relations and diminished soft power. The extent of the damage could depend on the file contents, the US government response, and how global media and public interprets the revelations. If mishandled, the release could portray the US as a nation where wealth and power shield criminality and reinforcing negative stereotypes and weakening its moral authority. Internally, Americans will lose their confidence in their own institutions, which is already happening, to be honest. Americans know that their elites are corrupt and have no moral values. However, they lecture others about democracy, freedom, and morality. A transparent and proactive response could mitigate harm by demonstrating accountability and a commitment to justice, which is unlikely to happen because whom will you hold accountable? The entire system is corrupt. The accountability has to be held accountable. Ultimately, the Epstein case taps into universal concerns about power, privilege, and justice, making it a global story with far reaching implications. So it's not about Democrats versus Republicans or MAGA versus liberals. It's about the entire country and foundations on which it stands. And as I have mentioned earlier, there are many Jeffrey Epsteins. America is rotting in front of the world, and Jeffrey Epstein is one of the many bad smell which is coming out from that rot. Let me know your thoughts in the comments and what you think about this entire facade. If you found this video insightful, then hit the like button and subscribe for more. Share it with your friends and family, and always remember, nothing is permanent except for change. The change which includes fall of the American empire.